Selling in a Downturn 2025 edition. So this will be super helpful to get you rebooted, repivoted, re-energized, refilled, and not only be able to surf the waves of uncertainty and recession, depression, inflation, tariffs, craziness, layoffs, hiring freezes, job cuts, who knows what kind of craziness. Not only survive that, but very possibly profit from it, amplify your business, fill your pipeline, and make the next 3 to 6 months even more profitable and exciting, and having you more in demand now than when times were calm, smooth, and easy. Because at some point we're all gonna miss, if we're not already missing, the times when things were calmer and smoother and easier, but they're not. They're kind of crazy. So that's why I wanted to revise and update this training. So torn from the headlines in the last 7 to 10 days. From April 11th, chances of a recession in 2025 are rising. This is from some economic thing. This is from USA Today. You can see the date there, April 14th. Economy will likely slow to near standstill or recession despite Trump tariff pause. And that was of a survey of economists. Then we have from JP Morgan, their global research division, their chief economist says even with the latest step back from the draconian Liberation Day measures, what remains is still enough to push the US and China, and thus likely the global economy, into a recession this year. Probability of a recession remains at 60%, according to them, on April the 15th. And then this is just from a few days ago. The BlackRock, big financial hedge fund, biggest hedge fund firm, the CEO says, most CEOs I talk to say we are probably in a recession right now. And then finally, this is from April 17th, from Reuters, tariffs to trigger sharp US economic slowdown, chance of recession jumps to 45%. So I'm just showing all of this to you to indicate what you probably already know. No one has any freaking idea what's going on. Is it 45%? Is it 60%? Are we already in it? But the point of all of this is that your prospects and your clients, even whether we believe it or not, whether we care or not, whether this recession, inflation, tariffs is affecting us or not, this is what's in the water cooler system. This is what they're consuming on a regular basis. So if you're selling to large corporations, mid-sized companies, CEOs, founders, divisional presidents of companies, this is the news stream that they are reacting to. True, false, overblown, underblown, we don't know, we don't care. This has nothing to do with the actual economic reality. It has to do with the perception of the economic reality and what they're buying and what they're not buying and what they're cutting and what they're not cutting and what they're really interested in right now and what they're really not interested in right now is all being shaped by this turmoil, uncertainty, and volatility day to day, hour to hour in what's really going on. So, how do we actually sell something? How do we extract money from people that are in this kind of vortex of conflicted advice? Well, that's what we're here to tackle today. So, the big picture is we've already been through this in very recent memory. So, the good news is COVID was a downturn. There are some differences, but there are some similarities as well. So, you already know the playbook. The playbook is whatever the current turbulence, the current external conditions that we and our clients are operating in, it is really important to boost your relevance and boost the urgency of the solutions and the outcomes that you provide. This means some strategic shifts in your messaging. This means that we need to be prepared for a different kind or a different vector of objections, not the usual don't have time, don't have money. And then there's a very thin line between can't buy, like literally can't buy versus won't. So are companies and individuals and mid-sized firms and large companies and small solo businesses, are they still spending money? Yes. Are they spending money on different things for different reasons than when conditions were calm, smooth, predictable? Yes. So how do we put ourselves in the crosshairs of where they're already spending money and where they already need to be solving problems? That's the magic of what we're talking about today. It's not about let's market the same things in the same ways and hope that some people still get it, some people still need it, some people still want it. Let's focus on, well, where are they moving intellectually and emotionally? And how can we, with a 5 or 10 or 15% shift, how can we move ourselves right into the crosshairs of their urgent, pervasive, hair on fire, everything is uncertain, don't know where things are going to be tomorrow or next week or next month? That's their mindset. How do we shift so that we are bullseye center of that problem and we present ourselves as the best and the smartest and the safest investment that they can make in this present moment under these current conditions? So here are some shifts that we need to make in a crisis. And this is from the COVID playbook. This is from the 9/11 playbook. This is from the 2008 to 2010 financial meltdown playbook. This is from the 2022 Russia-Ukraine war crisis. You name any major global crisis, disruption, craziness, and the shifts are pretty much the same. Number one, caring, empathy, and relevance all need to be dialed up to 11. 10 is not enough. We got to go spinal tap. We have to go to 11 on your genuine level of caring, your genuine level of empathy, and your genuine level of relevance. I'm going to talk about some relevance shifts here coming up in a moment. Your marketing needs to be tuned in 110%. The positioning that will get people off the fence, get their attention, win the meeting, make the sale is now more than ever. Now more than ever, tailored, customized, and personalized for this present moment, because no one's buying a generic solution in a very specific crisis situation. So we need to be shifting and molding and shaping our value proposition into this now more than ever positioning, which we'll talk about. Prevent common objections, and then obviously preserve your earning power so that we don't take a dip, not only overall, but now that it's April, the marketing that you do in April and May and June determine the quality and the quantity of the checks that you're cashing in July and August and September. So we need to be planting the seeds now to get the short term, the medium term, and the long term sales and get that pipeline going with the short term opportunities, the medium term opportunities, and the long term opportunities so that you don't fall into the summer slowdown or the summer slump. So we talked about this, I think 2 years ago. There was another talk of recession and craziness back in 2023. The math there was closer to 60 or 65%, which was pretty much across the board. The economists felt that something was coming. Did it ever come? I don't think so. But again, just like 2 years ago, it doesn't matter what actually is happening. The perception of what's happening is what drives buying decisions. So if you had a property and there was wildfires all around, and there's a 45% chance that your house is going to be engulfed by these wildfires, would you invest in some fire extinguishers? You probably would. So we're not talking about a 5% chance. We're not talking about a 1% chance. We're not even talking about a 10% chance. We're saying, hey, it's about 50-50. Your house could be engulfed in flames and totally destroyed. By the way, I'm in the business of selling fire extinguishers. Would you like to have a chat? And most people would say, yes, I'd like to have a chat before my house is engulfed in flames. So the question is, would you invest? Most people, the answer is yes. What do prospects do in this kind of situation? Well, you may have been affected by this already. You may be afraid of being affected by this at some point in the near future. They cut discretionary spending. They reduce costs. They want to extend their runway. They want to reduce risk. They basically hide under their desk. They want to hunker down. They want to play it safe. The last thing on their mind is ambition and growth and bigger and better. They're in survival mode. They're in, hey, if we get through this, we're winning the game. And they also don't want to do anything that their competition isn't doing also. So herd mentality kicks in, risk reversal, risk elimination. They want simple solutions to big problems. They don't want complexity. They don't want 17-part diagnostics. If they're hurting and they're fearful, they want something simple to buy, simple to implement, and simple to get the pain relief. So this also goes back to our conversation around aspirin versus vitamins. It's tough to sell vitamins when there's pestilence and disease everywhere. When there's pestilence and disease everywhere, we shift from being in the vitamin business to being in the aspirin business. And there are budget freezes and there's cost cutting and there's eliminate non-essential spending. Sorry, we signed the contract, but we got to cut you off, all of these kind of things. So preparing for this and knowing that this is the prospect behavior and the client behavior, we can get ahead of this by simply preparing for it smartly. So I want you to think about the language, verbs and nouns that buyers might be thinking about using, talking to you about, and we need to mirror that same exact buyer language. So let's talk about the verbs. I just mentioned some of the verbs in the previous slides, but verbs like extend, preserve, protect, safeguard, survive, restore, reduce, maintain, right? These are safety words. These are stability words. These are words that will protect the mothership and no risk, no fancy stuff. We're not getting clever. We're putting fencing around the homestead. So if we use those same kind of verbs when we talk about what our programs and services and speaking, training, coaching, advisory services are all about, and they're in sync with extend, preserve, protect, safeguard, survive, restore, reduce, maintain. So all the good things get extended, preserved, protected, and safeguard, right? The bad things, we're reducing the risk, we're reducing the threat, we're protecting, we're restoring, we're bringing things back. It is not a language of ambition or forward movement. It's a language of protection and preservation. So let's look at some nouns. What are they going through in their own words? How are they describing their current situation, their current mindset, what their team is going through, what their marketing folks are going through, what their leaders are going through, what they themselves are going through? They're using nouns like change, turbulence, turmoil, transition, disruption, uncertainty, downturn, and crisis. So they're not buying the regular, everyday, plain vanilla, off-the-shelf programs and services. They're buying things that are custom tailored for change, turbulence, turmoil, transition, disruption, uncertainty, downturn, and crisis. And the only difference is, unlike COVID, this time you actually have toilet paper. At least so far. At least so far. We'll wait for what the chicken flu does, and then we'll be out of toilet paper again. So the power formula is stop selling what you want to sell, or at least stop selling what you want to sell in the way that you want to sell it. Sell what they want to buy, and sell what they want to buy in the way that they want to buy it. And we'll spend a little bit more time on that here in a minute. Move from the nice to have vitamin quadrant to the must have aspirin quadrant, and boost your selling skills so that you can have these conversations with confidence and certainty and without coming across as needy or desperate or pushy or salesy, but stand in the certainty that what you do is absolutely essential for their survival, for their success, for their navigating this storm. And then simply add a new wrapper around your existing services, products, and programs. So we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We are simply adding a new frame or a new context around the proven content that you're already selling, whether that is marketing, strategy, growth, sales training, corporate culture, leadership, team building, effective communication, presentation skills, customer service, all the different things that we do. We're adding a new wrapper around all of those so that they can see themselves in what we're offering. And we are selling what they want to buy. We are moving into the must-have instead of the nice-to-have quadrant, and we're able to have a sales conversation around this new situation, around this new now moment. So the objections, let's go through the objections that we might get under this crisis, wartime, psychological war anyway, wartime footing. We're on a spending freeze. Oh my gosh, we're laying off 20% of our workforce. We just got our budget cut. Oh, Annie, I would love to. We just got our budget cut. We can't hire any outside consultants. Gosh, Pete, I'm really sorry. This sounds like it's totally amazing, but no outside consultants, buddy. Can't do it. We're just trying to survive. We're just trying to keep our heads above water. Time, oh my God, our hair's on fire, moving things 100 miles an hour. We'd love to do this. We do not have time for a project like this. and we are so busy. Everyone's juggling at 150%. There is no way we can add anything more to our plate. We cannot focus on anything new right now. We're in survival mode. We're in hunker down mode. Okie dokie. Well, welcome to the April No Foolin'. It's called the No Foolin' edition of the NBA monthly training. And we're going to talk about navigating the crazy. Navigating the crazy. And I, of course, have slides. So let's get right into navigating the crazy. There it is. So we are doing Selling in a Downturn 2025 edition. So this will be super helpful to get you rebooted, repivoted, re-energized, refilled, and not only be able to surf the waves of uncertainty and recession, depression, inflation, tariffs, craziness, layoffs, hiring freezes, job cuts, who knows what kind of craziness. Not only survive that, but very possibly profit from it, amplify your business. Facts and shifts. Whether this is real or not, whether the recession's coming, 60% chance, 45% chance, 0% chance, from a prospect and client perspective, we are in a period of dramatic uncertainty. And the business impact is going to vary. Don't assume that everyone's doing terrible. Don't assume that everyone's doing great. Some companies, some industries will actually be up in this moment. Some will be down, some will be decimated, and some will be fairly unaffected. So the important thing, of course, is to ask. But please also understand that with the relevance at 11 and the urgency at 11, buyers will still have meetings with you. Buyers will still book a call. You have to acknowledge that we're in this shift, acknowledge this for yourself so that you can start to make some of these marketing and messaging and packaging shifts. Not a lot, but just 5, 10, 15% shifts. And again, it's the context around your content. Your content is amazing. Your content is beautiful. Your content helps people when times are good, bad, or medium. But the crisis wrapper around your content, that's what's going to increase the relevance. That's what's going to increase the urgency of hiring you. Don't assume that there's no money. Never assume that there's no money. And never assume that the clients are not going to buy. If you do everything right, the way we're talking about here, your chances dramatically go up. And then provocative messages, and don't be afraid to get in their face a little bit. If you've got the medicine and there are sick and dying people all around, can you imagine going, oh, I don't know if I want to share my medicine with them. I mean, gosh, it's I don't want to seem pushy. I don't want to seem salesy. Well, do you want to save their life? Do you want to improve their life or not? So provocative messages and insights to help buyers recognize the urgent issues and the urgent changes that they need to make, knowing that you've got the medicine, that you've got the cure. Mark Cuban says, wherever there is change, and there is plenty of change right now, wherever there is uncertainty, and there is plenty of uncertainty right now, there is opportunity. So the question is, do they still need all of these different things that we do, from leadership, strategy, marketing, sales, presentation skills, work-life balance, retention, recruiting, change, resilience, happiness, finance, health? Yes, 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 yes. Hell to the yes, absolutely. They still need all of those things. They just need them for different reasons, and they need them in a different context. So if you refocus on right now, and I do win the t-shirt on this because I've been teaching this through the past 2 or 3 different turn downs. I didn't have my own business. I was still an employee on 9/11, but this applies to 9/11 and then early 2002 as well. But people are not buying fluff. People are not buying the motivating, inspiring, touching, I laughed, I cried, I spilled my soda, and milk came out my nose type of programs. They are generally more interested in hard outcomes and hard results. And the now more than ever, the third layer of this is if you add, literally add to your website, to your program pages, to your service pages, phrases like in a recession, how to get a job when no one's hiring, how to lead your team during tough times, how to recruit A players even in a crisis, how to communicate powerfully through a downturn, how to do X when nothing is certain. And then one of my favorites is the phrase, what now, right? Leadership essentials, what now? right? Selling complex products. What now? Any topic, any title, colon, what now? What now could mean a whole bunch of things. What now could mean things are booming and how do you keep up with the demand? What now could mean your business just got cratered and what do you do now to survive? But that messaging layer, not just in the titles, but also in the context, right? This is the building blocks of the framing, the building blocks of the context around your content. In order for you to boost your relevance, what you're selling has to match what they're experiencing. So if they're telling you, oh my God, our whole industry's in a recession, you have X in a recession. If you say, oh my gosh, our people are losing their minds, we're having such a tough time, it's X during tough times. So literally it's mirroring and reflecting the language that they're using as part of the way that you articulate and the way that you distinguish your solution. So the sales language that's required for this is focus on the risks of not addressing these issues, including focus on the risk of doing nothing, reposition your offerings to address those exact issues. And remember the magic phrase, the magic connecting phrase, so that you protect, so that you extend, so that you preserve, so that you safeguard, right? If those are the kinds of things, the risk aversion, the protectionist kind of messaging, our so that phrases need to say, you need to invest in this so that you protect, so that you preserve, so that you extend, so that you safeguard, and then create urgency around hair on fire priorities. Someone said this, I think it might have been Pete or John, but it's while you still can. He said, while you still can. My phrase is before it's too late, right? Before it's too late, while you still can, in the next 30 days, right now, those time-bound priority type of phrases everywhere in your articulation. Before it's too late, while you still can, in the next 30 days, right now, that frames the urgency. So a couple of examples, and this is just kind of some takeaway brainstorming. Ignoring X now while you're doing these layoffs can decrease Y even more. So that, and I already gave you this one, but so that you protect, extend, preserve, safeguard, reduce risk, reduce cost, avoid X problem, whatever they're afraid of. And then if your sole focus is juggling all of these balls, if your number one priority is putting out these fires, when X is all you care about, if Y is making you crazy right now, that's exactly what we can work on. That's exactly where a program like this can be massively helpful to you and your team. So using their excuse as your reason to move ahead, that's the verbal judo, that's the flip that will make this happen. So these are just more good things to think about. We don't necessarily need to take the time to do this one together, but as a follow-up, I would work on your refocus on right now plan. So make a short list. What are the risks of not getting your help right now? List a couple of so that phrases that I just demonstrated for you so that these become a natural part of your vocabulary. This might become your next LinkedIn post. This might become your next video or your LinkedIn Live. And then figure out of the programs and services that you have, are there a couple of repositioning or retitling ideas for your in a downturn services or programs that match what I talked about back here on this slide, right? Column number 3 would be your kind of remessaging and retitling toolkit. So as a take home from today, what are the risks of not getting into action now? And be very clear. Don't exaggerate. They will lose out. My firm belief is they will lose out if they don't hire you right now in this moment of crisis and transition. But you need to list out what are the risks of not getting your help right now. List some so that phrases that connects with their new priorities, and then list a couple of, just brainstorm some repositioning or retitling ideas for your in a downturn services or programs. And then last couple things, my favorite Helen Keller quote here is a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. And there's some pretty crazy turns. There's some hairpin turns like on this slide that are in the moment right now and probably coming up for the next few months. So if you want to survive all of those and thrive and do even better than when things are all peachy and wonderful, please take this to heart, that a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. When you make the turn, relevance goes up, urgency goes up, and this is why they hire you to help put out the fire. You know, my house is burning, my house is burning. You're selling fire extinguishers. When people say, no thanks, I can't buy the fire extinguisher right now, my house over here is burning, that's about as much sense as it makes when they say no to your products and services if you do this the right way.